No, I live in the present. I live in the present. I'm focused on this week and this game, and each week and every game, like because nothing's promised. Nothing's promised um, going into next year or anything. So I stay in the moment, stay focused on what I have to do now to even be able to be here next year. And I just enjoy life.
The New York Giants are experiencing instant regret after Shedeur Sanders delivered a heartbreaking speech about next season that reveals he knows nothing is guaranteed with the Browns. And when you hear Shedeur say, nothing's promised going into next year, and I have to do my part to even be able to be here next year, you'll understand why teams that passed on him are sick to their stomachs. When asked directly if he feels a commitment from the Browns about next year and being the starter, Shedeur gave the most mature yet devastating answer, saying, I don't own an organization. I can't promise anything will happen. I'm not God. I can't dictate what's going to happen. Basically admitting the Browns haven't committed to him as their franchise quarterback, despite everything he's shown. But here's what makes this powerful. Shedeur also revealed he's super appreciative that everything happened how it happened, including going against the Ravens and not playing my best, because those failures are building blocks that taught him about experience and how to handle adversity, proving he's more mentally mature than any rookie QB in the league.
Ford came through here a couple weeks ago. You mentioned the differences in your situations.
Yeah.
And then just a few minutes ago, you said nothing's even promised for next year. Do you still not feel a commitment from the Browns about next year and you being the starter?
Nah, I don't think it's about feeling a commitment. I don't think it's about anything of that. It's about controlling what you can control as a person, as a player.
Yo, so let me tell you why the New York Giants and about 30 other NFL teams are absolutely sick after hearing what Shedeur Sanders just said in this press conference. Because when you listen to how Shedeur talked about his future, about next season, about whether he even knows if he'll be with the Browns, you start to realize that teams made a massive mistake passing on this kid. This press conference was supposed to be routine, just another Wednesday media session before the Steelers game. But what Shedeur revealed about his mindset, his maturity, and most importantly, his uncertainty about his future with Cleveland, that's what should make every GM who passed on him lose sleep. Let's start with the moment that should haunt the Giants most. A reporter asked Shedeur, last week, you said this is the worst it's going to be for you. Have you spent a lot of time thinking about just how much better it could look next year? Normal rookie answer? Yeah, I'm excited about the future. We're building something special. But Shedeur? He gave an answer that shows wisdom way beyond his years, but also reveals a harsh reality about his situation in Cleveland. He said, no. I live in the present. I live in the present. I'm focused on this week and this game and each week and every game because nothing's promised. Nothing's promised going into next year or anything. So I stay in the moment, stay focused on what I have to do now to even be able to be here next year. To even be able to be here next year. Let that sink in. A fifth-round pick who's been one of the only bright spots on a 3-11 team isn't even sure if he'll be here next year. That's not confidence. That's not organizational commitment. That's a young quarterback who understands the business, but also knows he hasn't been given any assurances. And you know what that tells me? The Browns still haven't committed to Shedeur as their franchise quarterback. Despite everything he's shown, despite the growth, despite the maturity, despite being the only player in the top 50 jersey sales on that entire roster. But here's where it gets even more heartbreaking and where teams like the Giants should be kicking themselves. A reporter followed up directly. Do you still not feel a commitment from the Browns about next year and you being the starter? That's a yes or no question, right? Either the team has told you you're the guy or they haven't.
Hey, Shedeur, I wanted to ask you, you're seeing the Steelers for the first time as a starter, but you went through the whole, preparation as the backup that week, the game in Pittsburgh. How much does that help you in this week's preparation now as a starter that you've seen it, you've gone through all that prep work before on this opponent?
I would say week by week of getting gameplay helps me more than that week in particular when we just study them because, like I say, every week is a new week and you have to focus on the next opponent.
Listen to Shedeur's response. No, I don't think it's about feeling a commitment. I don't think it's about anything of that. It's about controlling what you can control as a person, as a player. I think I have to do my part. I have to do my part and get some wins. I think I have to do my part and play clean football, and the rest isn't in my hands. He didn't say, yes, they've committed to me. He didn't say, I know I'm the starter next year. He said, the rest isn't in my hands. Translation, the Browns haven't told him anything about next year. They're keeping their options open. They're probably still eyeing quarterbacks in the draft. They haven't given Shedeur the assurance that every franchise quarterback needs to hear. And then Shedeur dropped this line that should be played in every NFL front office as a reminder of how the business works. I don't own an organization. I can't promise anything will happen. I'm not God. I can't dictate what's going to happen each and every day, each and every minute. You just got to enjoy what you do have. You got to enjoy the present. You can't look too deep into the future because then you'll miss the blessings and the lessons that you learned from the now. That's maturity. That's perspective. That's a young man who understands that despite doing everything right, despite improving every week, despite showing franchise quarterback potential, his future is still uncertain. And you know who's watching this and feeling sick? The New York Giants. Think about it. The Giants are 2-12. They're a disaster. They have no franchise quarterback. They're going to have a top 5 pick. And they had the chance to draft Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who just showed more maturity and leadership in a 12-minute press conference than Daniel Jones showed in 5 years. The Giants could have had this, a quarterback who understands the business, who doesn't make excuses, who takes responsibility, who lives in the present and controls what he can control. Instead, they're probably going to draft another project quarterback, cross their fingers, and hope it works out. Meanwhile, Shedeur is sitting in Cleveland knowing he's good enough to be a franchise QB, but not knowing if the organization believes in him. That's heartbreaking, and it's also a massive opportunity for teams paying attention. Now, let me show you the other side of Shedeur's comments that prove he's not just mature, he's built for this.
It's how you build trust, you know?
Yeah, and last week you said, this is the worst it's going to be for you, and I think Sunday you said defenses better get you now. So have you spent a lot of time thinking about just how much better it could look next year?
No, I live in the present. I'm focused on this week and this game and each week and every game, because nothing's promised. Nothing's promised.
When asked where he's improved most since the Ravens game, Shedeur gave an answer that shows he understands something most young quarterbacks don't. He said, I improved experience. I improved being in situations and understanding that failing, And I think those are all building blocks to be able to have success. I think sometimes you have to fail in certain areas to have success. He understands that failure is part of the process. He's not running from it. He's not making excuses. He's learning from it. Then he said something that gave me chills. I like the route. I like the route that it took, and I like how everything went because it's a lot of great building blocks that I'm able to learn from when it comes to life, when it comes to just me being a part of the organization. When I look back today and I look back at everything, I'm super appreciative that everything happened how it happened. Super appreciative that everything happened how it happened, including the Ravens game where he didn't play his best, including getting thrown into the fire as a 5th-round pick, including all the struggles and adversity. He's grateful for the hard times because they made him better. That's not something you can coach. That's character. That's mentality. Shedeur even broke down that Ravens game specifically. Going out there versus a great defense like the Ravens and not playing my best, but at the same time, that last drive, that's when I felt comfortable. That's when I know I could get back to being myself. That's when I could feel. Everything's about feel, and I'm thankful that I have that feeling. So even in his worst game, he found the moment where he got his confidence back. That last drive against the Ravens, that's when he knew he belonged, and he's carried that feeling ever since. That's elite mentality. That's franchise quarterback mindset, and the Browns still haven't committed to him? Let me also address something else Shedeur said that shows his maturity in football IQ. When asked about the Steelers getting 7-8 sacks in the first meeting, you know what Shedeur said? "I don't focus on pass stats and all that stuff. It serves no purpose, because if you just hear that, then you're already losing mentally. You're losing because you're like, oh, they could get some sacks, so now you're not mentally in it. You already lost before you even showed up. So I tend to live in the present and not really think about the past." Brilliant. He's not letting negative stats from the first game get in his head. He's not worried about what happened before. He's focused on now. That's the kind of mindset that separates good quarterbacks from great ones, and the Browns still haven't committed to him? Now let me connect this back to why teams like the Giants should be feeling instant regret. Everything Shedeur said in this press conference proves he has mental toughness to handle adversity, maturity to understand the business, humility to keep improving, perspective to not let circumstances define him, leadership to take responsibility, football IQ to stay in the present, gratitude for the journey. Those are franchise quarterback traits. Those are characteristics you can't teach, and 31 teams passed on him. The Giants could have had him. Instead, they're stuck in quarterback purgatory, watching Shedeur show all these qualities in Cleveland of all places. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation, and this is where I want to defend Shedeur and explain why he's handling this perfectly. When the reporter asked if he feels a commitment from the Browns, Shedeur could have been bitter. He could have thrown shade. He could have said, "Yeah, it's frustrating that they haven't committed to me." But he didn't. He took the high road. He said, "It's about controlling what you can control. I have to do my part and get some wins. I have to do my part and play clean football. The rest isn't in my hands." That's leadership. That's professionalism. That's exactly how a franchise quarterback should handle uncertainty. He's not complaining. He's not making excuses. He's putting the pressure on himself to perform well enough that the Browns have no choice but to commit to him. And you know what? That's the right approach, because Shedeur understands something crucial. Words don't matter. Performance matters. The Browns can say they're committed to him, but if they draft another quarterback or make moves that show they don't believe in him, those words mean nothing. So Shedeur is focused on what he can control: his preparation, his performance, his improvement. And if the Browns are smart, they'll recognize they have a gem and commit to building around him. But if they don't, if the Browns are dumb enough to move on from Shedeur after everything he's shown, then teams like the Giants will get another chance, and this time, they better not pass on him again. Shedeur also showed incredible awareness about trust and growth when a reporter asked about stepping up in the pocket. The reporter mentioned Harold Fanion said that's one area where Shedeur has grown most, stepping into the pocket and making throws. Shedeur's response: "I think everything applies. Trust in your eyes, trusting what you see, trusting how you've been prepared, trusting your coaching, trusting the skills that you've developed over the weeks. I think it's all in one." Trust. That's what it comes down to. Trust in himself, trust in his preparation, trust in his teammates, trust in the process. Shedeur is in a situation where he's a fifth-round pick, so expectations were low. He's on a 3-11 team with major organizational issues. He's playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. The Browns haven't committed to him long-term. He knows nothing is promised for next year. And despite all of that, he's improving every single week, taking full responsibility for his performance, staying humble and coachable, living in the present and controlling what he can control, grateful for the journey and the lessons, confident in his ability, but patient with the process. That's rare. That's special. That's exactly what you want in a franchise quarterback. So when teams like the Giants look back on passing Shedeur Sanders, when they see him handle adversity and uncertainty with this level of maturity, When they hear him talk about nothing being promised while still grinding and improving, they should feel sick, because Shedeur Sanders is everything you want in a quarterback, and he's sitting in Cleveland uncertain about his future, while teams that need a franchise QB are watching from the outside, knowing they had their chance. So here's what I want to know from you. After hearing Shedeur say nothing's promised going into next year, and I have to do my part to even be able to be here next year, do you think the Browns are making a massive mistake by not committing to him as their franchise quarterback? And the second question, when Shedeur inevitably becomes available, whether through the Browns being dumb enough to move on or through free agency down the road, which team will be smart enough to grab him and build a championship contender around this mentality? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think the Giants are sick about passing on Shedeur. Tell me which team you think should trade for him if the Browns don't commit. Look, Shedeur Sanders just delivered the most heartbreaking yet mature speech about next season, admitting nothing's promised going into next year, and revealing he doesn't even know if he'll be able to be here next year, despite doing everything right for the Browns. When asked directly if he feels a commitment from Cleveland, he said, "The rest isn't in my hands, and I can't dictate what's going to happen," basically confirming the Browns haven't committed to him as their franchise QB. But here's what makes this powerful. Shedeur also showed he's super appreciative of the journey, understands that failing creates building blocks for success, and is focused on controlling what you can control. Teams like the Giants that passed on him are experiencing instant regret because you can't teach this level of maturity, leadership, and mental toughness. Shedeur is a franchise quarterback, and if the Browns don't realize it, someone else will. If you made it this far, you're part of the family. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because when Shedeur's future gets decided, whether in Cleveland or somewhere else, I'll be here covering every moment. Until next time, peace out.